Some people believe babies don't understand anything, but that night a child proved them wrong. While the millionaire Arthur Blackwood screamed and argued about money, she made a decision that no one there would be able to understand. And that was exactly what changed everything. Our stories have traveled far. Where are you watching from today? Share with us in the comments. Amanda Hayes looked at her phone for the 10th time that night. The supervisor's message glowed on the screen. I need you on the night shift. Double overtime pay. She bit her lower lip, knowing that money was exactly what she needed to pay the overdue rent. But there was a huge problem. Bella, the 1.5-year-old baby, was asleep on the worn-out living room sofa. Her curly hair was spread across the old pillow. Amanda felt her chest tighten. Mrs. Davis, the neighbor who always looked after the little one, had called earlier, saying she had a high fever. There was no one else. There was no daycare open at 9 p.m. There was no option. My God, what do I do? Amanda whispered to herself, running her hands over her tired face. She thought about refusing the shift, but then she remembered the eviction notice taped to her door 3 days ago. She remembered the almost empty refrigerator. She remembered how Bella would cry from hunger when the milk ran out before the end of the month. The decision was already made, even as fear clenched her stomach like a fist. Amanda picked up her daughter's pink backpack and started packing diapers, wet wipes, and the faded teddy bear that Bella wouldn't sleep without. Her hands trembled as she gathered the items. Forgive Mommy, my love, she murmured, watching the baby's serene face. It's just for tonight, I promise. At 8:30 p.m., Amanda was at the service entrance of the imposing Blackwood Holdings building on Park Avenue. A light rain was falling, soaking her coat. Bella was wrapped in a blanket inside the makeshift baby carrier Amanda wore on her chest, hidden under the large coat she had borrowed from her neighbor. The security guard at the service entrance, Oswald, barely glanced at her. Good evening, Amanda. You're cleaning the 20th floor today. It's empty. The meeting was canceled. Thanks, Oswald, she replied, relieved. An empty building meant less risk of being discovered, but Oswald was wrong. Amanda entered the service elevator with Bella still hidden, feeling every rapid beat of her own heart. The illuminated panel marked the floors going up. 10, 15, 18, 20. When the doors opened, she practically ran to the service bathroom, checking if she was truly alone. There, my love, now we're safe, she said softly, taking Bella out from under the coat. The baby opened her dark little eyes, confused by the strange environment, but she didn't cry. Bella was a quiet child, as if she already knew she had to be that way to not cause trouble. Amanda set up a makeshift corner in the locker room, with blankets, left water, and crackers nearby, and gave her daughter the teddy bear to hold. Bella yawned, rubbing her eyes with her chubby little hands. Mommy's going to work real quick, okay? You stay here quietly and play. If you need me, just cry and I'll come running. But as Amanda was finishing cleaning the main hallway, she heard men's voices coming from the main elevator. Her blood ran cold. She glanced at the clock. 9:40 p.m. Who would be there at this hour? The meeting has been rescheduled. A deep, cold voice echoed down the hall. Everyone in the conference room in 5 minutes. We have a $2 million hole to solve tonight. Amanda recognized that voice from the internal company memos. It was Arthur Blackwood, the president, the man all the employees feared, the man who never smiled, never greeted anyone, and who fired people without blinking. She had to get out of there. She had to grab Bella and disappear before anyone saw her. But when she ran back to the locker room, she found the door locked from the outside. Someone from security must have passed by and locked it, not knowing a baby was inside. No, no, no. Amanda pulled the handle in desperation, but the door didn't move. On the other side, she could hear Bella starting to whimper. The baby was waking up and would realize she was alone. The executives' voices were getting closer. Amanda was trapped between her locked-in daughter and the meeting that was about to happen just a few feet away. She needed help, but who would help her? Who wouldn't report her on the spot? It was then that she saw the pantry door open and the gentle face of Maria appear carrying a tray of coffee cups. "Amanda. What's wrong, girl? You look like you've seen a ghost." And Amanda made the riskiest decision of her life. Arthur Blackwood entered the conference room like a silent storm. His impeccable black suit contrasted with the pale faces of the directors already waiting for him. "Good evening," he said without any warmth in his voice. It wasn't a greeting, just an empty protocol. He placed his leather briefcase on the mahogany table and looked at each person present. 6 middle-aged men, all sweating even with the air conditioning on. Arthur knew the effect he had on people. He didn't care. "Is someone going to explain to me how $2 million simply vanished from the holdings account?" His voice was low, but sharp as glass. The CFO, Mr. Miller, cleared his throat nervously. "Mr. Blackwood, we are investigating. It seems there was a series of unauthorized transfers to a ghost account. We suspect I didn't ask for suspicions, I asked for explanations." Arthur interrupted him. "And where's my brother Robert should be here? He's the director of new business." A heavy silence fell over the room. The men exchanged uncomfortable glances. Arthur felt the anger rising in his chest. He already knew the answer before he even asked. "He's involved in this, isn't he? We don't have concrete proof yet, but the transfer started after your brother took over the department," replied Mr. Miller, his voice trembling. Arthur closed his eyes for a moment, controlling the fury that threatened to erupt. Robert always the irresponsible brother, always the problem he had to solve, always the disappointment his parents never wanted to see. "Get him on the phone now," he ordered. Sitting at the head of the table. While they waited, Arthur looked out the window at Park Avenue below, illuminated and rainy. He remembered when everything was different. When he would come home and a little voice would shout, "Daddy," from the other side of the door, when there were laughs and tight hugs and colorful drawings on the fridge. But it had been 5 years since Clara was there. 5 years since the illness took his 4-year-old daughter. 5 years since he had transformed into this empty man who looked at his reflection in the window and barely recognized himself. "Mr. Blackwood." Mr. Miller's voice brought him back. "Your brother is on his way up." Robert entered the room with that fake smile he always wore. His suit was wrinkled and his hair was messy. He smelled of whiskey. Arthur felt disgusted. "Big bro, what's this surprise meeting?" "You could have given me a heads up. I was handling some important business," Robert said, throwing himself into a chair carelessly. "Sit up straight," Arthur said, his voice icy, "and explain to me where $2 million of our company's money went." Robert's smile faltered for a fraction of a second, but he recovered quickly. "What are you talking about? I don't know anything about that. Don't lie to me, Robert. The transfers came from your Access account. Must be a system error. Or maybe someone hacked my password. You know how it is. These things happen." Robert shrugged without any remorse on his face. Arthur stood up slowly, his hands resting on the table. Everyone in the room instinctively recoiled. "Do you think I'm an idiot? Do you think I don't know you're lying?" "Dude, relax. It's just money. We have plenty of it. Why are you making such a big deal?" Robert replied, annoyed. "Because it's not your money, because you haven't worked a single day in your life for it. Because you're a..." Arthur stopped mid-sentence. He had heard something. A faint sound, almost imperceptible. It was coming from the pantry door, and it sounded like a baby. "Did you hear that?" he asked Mr. Miller. "Hear what, sir?" Arthur shook his head. He was so tired he was starting to hear things. He turned his attention back to his brother. You know what makes me angriest, Robert? It's not even the money, it's the fact that you never take responsibility for anything. Never. Remember that girl from a few months ago? The so-called gold digger you swore was trying to trap you with a fake pregnancy. Robert rolled his eyes. That Amanda something. It was a scam, obviously. These poor girls are always trying to pull a pregnancy trap on rich guys. I'm not a fool. Are you sure about that? Because she filed for child support and you didn't even show up for the hearing. Because I have nothing to do with it. I don't even remember her clearly. It was a one-time thing and she told me she was on birth control. Robert defended himself, but there was something too false in his tone. Arthur was about to reply when he heard it again. Now he was sure. It was definitely a baby crying, muffled but unmistakable, coming from the pantry next door. And suddenly the service door connecting the pantry to the conference room opened. 20 minutes earlier in the service corridor, Amanda was holding Maria's hands, as if they were her only salvation. Maria, I really need your help. I know I'm asking a lot, but I have no one else. The words came out jumbled, desperate. The 60-year-old janitor looked at Amanda with kind eyes that had seen so much of life. Calm down, my child. Breathe and tell me what's going on. Amanda told her everything. She told her about the overdue rent, about Mrs. Davis, about the impossible choice she had to make, and then she told her about Bella locked in the locker room. Good heavens! Maria placed a hand on her chest. There's a child locked in there. I know I did wrong. I know, but I had no choice, and now I can't open the door. And she's starting to cry. And the bosses are coming, and okay, we'll solve this. Maria pulled a ring of keys from her apron pocket. I have the master key. Come with me. The two of them ran to the locker room. When Maria opened the door, Bella was sitting in the middle of the blankets, her face red from crying. Silently, tears streaming down her chubby cheeks. Mommy, the baby stretched out her little arms. Amanda scooped her up so fast she almost tripped over her own feet, covering her daughter's face with kisses. Are you okay, my love? Mommy's here. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Bella sobbed quietly, clinging to her mother's neck with all her might. Maria watched the scene with teary eyes. She had been a single mother once. She knew exactly what that desperation felt like. Amanda, listen. I'm going to help you, but you need to trust me, Maria said, placing a hand on the young woman's shoulder. I'll stay with your little girl while you work. She'll stay with me in the pantry, but there's a meeting happening right now in the room next door. You'll have to clean the private bathroom in the conference room, the one only the directors use. I'll clean it no problem, but Bella, she'll be quiet with me. I'll find some plastic containers for her to play with. Kids love making noise with pots and pans, and the door between the pantry and the conference room is always ajar, not locked. If she cries too much, you'll hear it and come get her. But I'll take good care of her. You can trust me. Amanda looked at Maria, then at Bella, who was already calmer. She had no other choice. She needed to work, or she would lose her job. And if she lost her job, she lost everything. Okay. But Maria, thank you so much. I don't even know how to thank you. No need to thank me. We poor folks have to help each other, otherwise no one helps us. Maria took Bella in her arms carefully. The baby looked at her suspiciously at first, but the janitor had that motherly way that calmed any child. Look how beautiful you are. Want to see what Auntie has here? Look at these shiny containers. In the pantry, Maria set up a sort of improvised play area on the floor, away from the main door, but close enough to the service door for Amanda to hear anything. She laid out plastic containers, lids, wooden spoons, anything that made noise but wasn't dangerous. Bella, curious as any child her age, quickly became interested in the new objects. She banged one lid against another, fascinated by the sound it made. That's right, sweetie. Very quietly. Okay? Make the little noise very softly, Maria instructed, sitting in an old chair next to the girl. Amanda was in the private bathroom cleaning the mirror with quick movements. She could hear the muffled voices of the men in the meeting through the wall. One voice stood out from the others. It was deep, authoritative, frightening. It must be that Arthur Blackwood everyone was afraid of. She finished the mirror and started cleaning the sink. Her hands were shaking. She needed to be fast. The less time in there, the better. But in the pantry, exhaustion was starting to overcome Maria. She had woken up at 5 a.m., worked all day, and was now doing overtime. Her eyes were heavy. The chair was comfortable. The sound of Bella banging the containers was repetitive, almost hypnotic. "I'll just close my eyes for a minute," she murmured to herself. Bella continued to play alone quietly, but after a while she dropped the containers and looked around. "Where's Mommy?" She started to move, crawling around the pantry, looking for Amanda. That's when she saw the ajar door. It wasn't the big door Maria had come through. It was another smaller door that let a different sliver of light through. Bella tilted her little head curiously. Sometimes Mommy was on the other side of doors. Sometimes you just had to go there to find her. The baby crawled to the crack. The door was just ajar, as Maria had said. With her chubby little hand, Bella pushed the door lightly. It opened a little more. On the other side, Bella saw the legs of men in dress pants, many legs, and a huge, dark, shiny table. Under that table looked like an interesting tunnel. Bella loved tunnels. At home, she always crawled under the coffee table, without making a sound because Bella was a girl who had learned to be quiet. She entered the conference room on the floor and began to cross under the immense mahogany table, invisible to the eyes of the executives who were discussing numbers and spreadsheets above her. Maria continued to sleep in her chair, too exhausted to notice the child was gone. Bella crawled slowly under the table, her chubby little knees making minimal noise against the thick carpet. To her, this was an adventure, a huge, dark cave full of strange legs that moved from time to time. She stopped under the center of the table and sat up. The wood was dark and had pretty patterns. Bella reached out her little hand to touch it, but couldn't reach. So she continued her journey. Above her, the meeting continued tense. Arthur was still questioning Robert about the missing money, but there was something wrong with his younger brother's behavior. Robert was too restless, sweating too much, avoiding Arthur's gaze. "I already told you I don't know anything," Robert practically shouted, getting up from his chair abruptly. The chair scraped against the floor with a loud noise. Bella under the table was startled by the sudden sound. She stopped crawling and froze, her little heart beating fast. "Sit down," Arthur ordered. And there was something so cold in that voice that even the other directors flinched. Robert obeyed, but he couldn't stay still. He stood up again, started pacing around the room, running his hand through his hair, checking his phone every 2 seconds. "You're acting like you have something to hide." Arthur observed his eyes following his brother's every move. "I'm not hiding anything. I'm nervous because you're accusing me of theft. I haven't accused you of anything yet, but I'm seriously starting to consider it." Meanwhile, in the private bathroom, Amanda finished cleaning and put the supplies back on her cart. She looked at the clock. It had been 15 minutes. 15 minutes was a long time away from Bella. She needed to get back to the pantry and check if everything was okay. But as she was leaving the bathroom, she heard Robert's loud voice shouting something about injustice. Amanda froze. She couldn't cross the conference room now. She would have to wait for the argument to calm down. She pressed her ear to the door, trying to gauge how much longer it would take. Her stomach was in knots with anxiety. Bella was fine. Maria was managing to keep her quiet. What if the baby had started crying loudly? Back in the room, Bella had reached the end of the table. She saw the feet of a man standing right in front of her. They were feet in shiny black shoes, standing there, not moving much, unlike the other feet that paced nervously back and forth. Bella decided those still feet seemed safe. She crawled a little further and emerged from under the table, appearing next to the chair where the CFO, Mr. Miller, was sitting. But Mr. Miller was too focused on his spreadsheets, his eyes glued to his laptop screen. He didn't notice the child at his feet. No one noticed. The argument between Arthur and Robert was too loud, occupying all the attention in the room. Bella looked around the huge place. So many adults, so much noise from their voices. She didn't like it. She wanted her mommy. She wanted to be held. She wanted to get out of there. She started crawling faster now, around the chairs heading towards. She didn't really know where. She just knew she needed to find a safe place. A lap, someone who wasn't screaming. "You always do this!" Robert's voice exploded across the room, making even the directors jump. "You always blame me for everything, always think I'm the one in the wrong, always choose to humiliate me in front of everyone." Arthur stood up slowly, dangerously calm. "I blame you because you're always the one to blame Robert. Since we were kids. Always. Oh yeah. And you're the little saint, right? The perfect Arthur who never makes a mistake. Who never fails. Who never. I never stole from my own family." Arthur practically roared, and the silence that fell over the room was absolute. It was at that moment that Robert, pacing agitatedly around the room, nearly tripped over something soft on the floor. He looked down and saw a child, a baby with dark eyes and messy curls, looking up at him frightened. What the hell? Robert took a step back, surprised. Where did this thing come from? Bella, hearing the rude tone of that loud, tall man, felt scared. She knew men like that, men who spoke loudly, who made sudden movements, who were scary. She started to back away. "Get out of here." Robert made a gesture with his foot as if shooing away an unwanted animal. "Go on, get out of here." The baby started to cry, her lower lip trembling. She turned and crawled as fast as she could, fleeing from that mean man. Tears streamed down her frightened face. Everyone in the room finally realized there was a child there. The director stood up confused. Arthur turned his head to see what was happening. And it was at that exact moment that the service door flew open with force. Amanda entered the conference room in a panic. She had heard Bella's cry from the other side of the wall and couldn't wait another second. It didn't matter if she was going to be fired. It didn't matter if all those powerful men were staring at her with surprise and anger. Her daughter was crying, but what she saw made her stop in the middle of the room, her eyes wide with horror. Bella was on the floor crying desperately, trying to get away from Robert, who was making harsh gestures with his hands as if shooing a dog. "Go away! Who let this kid in here?" Robert complained, clearly irritated. Something inside Amanda broke. She had spent a year and a half protecting Bella from everything and everyone. She had worked until her hands bled to feed her daughter. She had endured humiliation, exhaustion, loneliness, and now she saw her own daughter's biological father treating her like trash. "Don't touch her!" Amanda yelled, running and scooping Bella into her arms before Robert could make another move. The baby clung to her mother's neck with such force it almost choked her. She was crying loudly now, wet sobs against Amanda's shoulder. "It's okay, my love. Mommy's here. No one's going to hurt you. It's okay." Robert finally looked properly at Amanda. His eyes widened with recognition, then narrowed with anger. "You," he said, his voice full of venom. "The gold digger. I knew you'd show up again. How much do you want this time?" "More money. Are you trying to blackmail me now?" Amanda felt hot tears burn her eyes, but she wouldn't cry in front of him. She wouldn't give him that satisfaction. "I don't want anything from you," she replied, her voice trembling but firm. "I never did. I just wanted you to acknowledge your daughter." "This child is not mine," Robert spat the words. "You planned this whole thing. You got pregnant on purpose to trap me, but I'm not a fool, honey. I know women like you. You know very well she's yours. You promised you would take responsibility when I told you I was pregnant. You said you would take care of us, and the next day you disappeared and blocked my number. Because you were lying. I wasn't lying. And when I found out I was pregnant, I was honest with you. But you called me a liar, a gold digger. Said I was just another poor girl trying to scam a rich man. The directors in the room watched the scene in shocked silence. No one knew where to look. Arthur was motionless at the head of the table, processing every word that was said. You know I'm telling the truth, Robert. Amanda continued. And now the tears were flowing freely down her face. You know when I sent you her picture after she was born, you blocked me. When I tried to get you to register her with your name, you threatened me with lawyers. When I asked for a DNA test, you said I was crazy. Because that child is not mine, Robert shouted. Stop making up lies. You probably don't even know who the real father is. Those words were too painful. Bella cried louder now, feeling the tension in her mother's body. Amanda hugged her tighter against her chest, trying to calm the baby and herself at the same time. I was never with anyone else, only you. And you know that because I don't care what you were. Robert cut her off cruelly. I'm not going to take responsibility for a child that's not mine just because you decided I'd be a good sponsor. Mr. Blackwood. Amanda turned to Arthur, ignoring Robert completely. Her voice was broken, but she was still trying to maintain some dignity. I'm so sorry for bringing my daughter to work. I know it was wrong, but I had no one to leave her with, and I needed the money from the night shift. I accept being fired. Just please let me leave through the service door. I don't want anyone else to see us like this. Arthur didn't answer. He was looking at the child in Amanda's arms, at the curls, the shape of her eyes, the curve of her nose. There was something there, something familiar he couldn't quite place. How old is she? He asked, his voice surprisingly soft. 1.5 years, sir, Amanda replied, confused by the question. Arthur did a quick mental calculation. 2 years ago, Robert had started a project at one of the company's subsidiaries. He had worked there for 3 months, met new employees, dated some of them, as he always did. What's her name? Beatrice? But I call her Bella. And you, what's your full name? Amanda Hayes, sir. Arthur took out his phone and typed something quickly. Seconds later, he was looking at Amanda's employee file in the company system. Date of hire 2 years and 8 months ago. Position cleaning assistant, a contractor for a third-party company that provides services to the annex building where Robert was running that project. Robert, he called, and there was something so dangerous in that tone that even Robert fell silent. Come here now. Why, I said come here. Robert walked towards his brother, trying to maintain his air of superiority, but clearly nervous. Look at this child. Look properly. I've already looked. She's not mine. Look at her, Arthur repeated. Each word a threat. Robert finally looked. He looked for real, and for the first time that night his mask of arrogance wavered, because Bella had stopped crying and was looking back at him with those immense, sad, dark eyes. And there was something there, something undeniable. She had his same face shape, the same nose, the same curve of the lip. It was like looking at a baby picture of himself. Robert swallowed hard and took a step back. So Arthur said, his voice deadly, Are you still going to say she's not yours? Bella had stopped crying, but her little face was still red and wet with tears. She looked at all those grown men with suspicion clinging to Amanda's neck, as if her life depended on it, and maybe it did. The baby was exhausted. It had been a long night full of strange places, unknown people. Loud noises. She just wanted to sleep. She just wanted to be held. But not just any arms, safe arms. Her little eyes scanned the room. The mean man who had tried to shoo her away was standing there with a face red with anger. Bella turned her head. She didn't want to look at him. She was afraid of him. There were other men in suits sitting around the table. They all looked at her with astonishment. Too much noise, too many voices, too much confusion. And then she saw him, a man sitting at the end of the table. He wasn't moving much. He wasn't yelling. He was quiet, observing everything with attention. His eyes were dark, similar to hers. And there was something in his face that wasn't anger or fear. It was sadness. A deep sadness that even a 1.5-year-old child could feel. Bella tilted her little head, studying that man. He seemed different, quiet, calm, safe. "Please, Mr. Blackwood." Amanda pleaded now, the tears flowing freely. "I'll go. I'll never come back here. Just let me leave with my daughter." But Arthur wasn't listening to Amanda. He was captivated by the child's eyes that were watching him with a strange intensity for someone so small. And for a second, just one impossible second, he saw Clara looking back at him. The same age, the same way of tilting her head when she was curious, the same serious expression his daughter used to make when she was processing the world around her. Arthur felt something stir inside his chest. Something that had been frozen for 5 years. Something he was sure had been buried along with his daughter. "You can stay," he said suddenly. "What?" Amanda blinked, confused. "You're not going to be fired. You can stay." "But I brought Bella to work. I broke the rules." "I know. And under normal circumstances you would be fired, but these are not normal circumstances." Robert snorted loudly. "Are you kidding, Arthur? This woman is a con artist. She planned this whole thing. She probably hid the kid here on purpose to make this scene." "Shut up," Arthur said without even looking at his brother, his eyes still fixed on Bella. The baby was tired of all the commotion. She wanted to get down from her mommy's arms, but she was afraid of the floor with all those strange people. So she did the only thing a small child knows how to do. She followed her instinct. She stretched her little arms out towards Arthur. The entire room held its breath. "Bella, no." Amanda tried to hold her daughter back, but Bella had already decided. She wanted that quiet, sad man. She didn't know why. She just did. Arthur looked at the little arms extended in his direction, and something inside him broke. Without much thought, he got up from his chair and walked over to Amanda. "May I?" he asked, his voice softer than anyone in that company had ever heard. Amanda was so surprised that she just nodded, still not understanding what was happening. Arthur took Bella into his arms carefully, as if he were holding something extremely fragile and precious. The baby looked him in the eyes for a long moment, studying this new face. Then, to everyone's shock, she rested her little head on his shoulder and closed her eyes, but she didn't just rest there. Bella, seeking more security, began to climb. Her small hands gripped Arthur's suit. She climbed a little higher and a little higher until she was sitting on his shoulder, her chubby little legs dangling over his chest. And then it happened. Bella stuck her little hand into Arthur's dark hair and pulled lightly, making a funny face as she tested this hair that was different from her own. Arthur made a surprised expression at the unexpected tug. His eyes widened. His mouth opened slightly, a grimace of shock so genuine it was almost comical. And Bella, seeing that funny face, did something she rarely did with strangers. She laughed. It was a high-pitched, delightful laugh full of childish joy the kind of laugh only a small child can give. She pulled his hair again, provoking another grimace from Arthur, and laughed even louder, enjoying the game she had invented. Arthur was completely frozen, but not from anger or discomfort. He was frozen because he knew that laugh. It was just like Clara's, exactly the same. The same high note, the same pure joy, the same way she would throw her head back when she found something funny. Tears began to form in the corners of his eyes. Tears he hadn't shed in 5 years. Tears he had sworn never to shed again, because crying hurt too much and changed nothing. Mr. Blackwood. Amanda took a step forward, worried. "Are you okay?" Arthur couldn't answer. He just held Bella more firmly, one hand on her back to make sure she didn't fall, as the baby continued to laugh and pull his hair, completely oblivious to the emotional chaos she was causing. And it was in that moment, with a child laughing on his shoulder and a frightened cleaning lady in front of him, that Arthur understood a simple and devastating truth. He had spent 5 years just existing, not living. 5 years refusing to feel anything because feeling hurts. And now suddenly, a strange child had made him feel everything at once. Bella started to get heavier in Arthur's arms, exhaustion finally overcoming her excitement. She gave a big yawn, showing her tiny teeth, and rested her head on his shoulder again, this time, to sleep for real. Arthur tried to adjust her better in his arms, changing her position to make her more comfortable. It was then, as he moved his hand to support her head, that he unintentionally pushed aside the curls at the nape of the baby's neck, and saw a small, V-shaped birthmark right at the base of her neck, where the head meets the spine. The entire world stopped. Arthur knew that Mark knew it very well. He had an identical one in the exact same spot. His father had one, his grandfather had had one. It was a family mark passed down from father to son for 3 generations, a rare genetic trait that only the Blackwoods carried, and Robert had one too. With trembling hands, Arthur turned Bella gently, exposing the nape of her neck better to be sure. Yes, there it was, unmistakable, undeniable, the V-shaped mark, the same size, in the exact same place as his own. "Arthur, what is it?" Robert asked, noticing the change in his brother's face. Arthur didn't answer, just looked at Robert with an intensity that made the younger brother take a step back. "Come here," Arthur ordered for the 2nd time that night. "Why are you—" "I said come here." Robert walked slowly towards his brother, fear finally starting to replace his arrogance. He had never seen Arthur with that expression. It was like looking at a volcano about to erupt. "Look." Arthur turned Bella slightly, showing her nape to Robert. "Do you see this?" Robert looked and turned completely pale. "No," he whispered. "Yes." Arthur replied, his voice deadly. "The Blackwood mark. The same one you have, the same one I have, the same one our father had." That doesn't prove anything," Robert stammered, but there was no conviction in his voice now. "It could be a coincidence. A lot of people have birthmarks. In this shape, in this exact place. Robert, you can be many things. Irresponsible, a liar, selfish, but you're not stupid. You know exactly what this means." Amanda was listening to the conversation without fully understanding, but she sensed that something important was being revealed. She took a step forward. "What are you talking about?" "What mark is that?" Arthur gently turned Bella so Amanda could see her own daughter's neck. "Have you ever noticed this?" he asked. "Yes, of course. It's a little birthmark she's had since she was born. The pediatrician said it's normal that many children have them. But not in this specific shape, and not in this exact place," Arthur explained, his voice firm. "This mark is a genetic trait of the Blackwood family. It's extremely rare. Only the men in the family carry it. My great-grandfather had it. My grandfather had it. My father had it. I have it. Robert has it. And now, he looked at Bella sleeping in his arms. She has it. Amanda felt her legs go weak. She grabbed the nearest chair to keep from falling. So that means... It means she's biologically a Blackwood. It means Robert lied about everything. Arthur turned to his brother, and the rage in his eyes was so intense that the directors still present in the room instinctively backed away. You knew it wasn't a question, it was an accusation. You knew this child was yours, and you still abandoned her. You let her and her mother struggle. You called Amanda a gold digger. You refused a DNA test. All because you're a coward who has never taken responsibility for anything in your life. I wasn't sure. Robert tried to defend himself, but his voice came out weak. Liar, Arthur roared, making Bella stir slightly in her sleep. He lowered his voice immediately, not wanting to wake the child, but the anger was still there, burning in every word. You knew. That's why you ran. That's why you blocked Amanda. Why you refused the test, because you knew if you did it, you'd have to take responsibility. And taking responsibility is not something you know how to do. Robert was cornered, and he knew it. There was no way out, no more lies that would work. The evidence was right there, sleeping in Arthur's arms, marked with the family's blood. And you know what's worse? Arthur continued, his voice low, but filled with contempt. You didn't just abandon some random child. You abandoned a Blackwood, your own daughter. You let her grow up in poverty while you wasted the family's money on parties and cars. You let her go hungry while you ate at luxury restaurants. You let her wear second-hand clothes while you bought Italian suits. Every word was like a punch, and Robert felt every one of them. Amanda, Robert tried taking a step toward her. I'm sorry. I was confused. I was scared. I didn't... She cut him off, her voice firm for the first time that night. Don't try to apologize now. You had a year and a half to do that. A year and a half where I reached out to you, sent you messages, begged you to at least meet your daughter, and you called me a liar. You humiliated me. You threatened me. I'll make it up to you. I swear I will. You won't do anything, Arthur interrupted. Because you just lost any right to this child. You can't decide that. She's my daughter. Now she's your daughter. Arthur gave a humorless laugh. 5 minutes ago you were calling her a thing and trying to shoo her away with your foot. And you think you have the right to be a father? Arthur turned to Mr. Miller, who was witnessing everything paralyzed. Mr. Miller, call legal, now. Sir, it's almost 11 at night. I don't care what time it is. Call Raphael at home if you have to. I want someone from legal here in 30 minutes. And call security, too. Yes, sir. Mr. Miller ran out to make the calls. Robert was getting paler by the second. Arthur, you can't do this. I can and I will. 20 minutes later, the conference room had turned into an impromptu courtroom. Raphael, the head of the legal department, had arrived in record time, still in a sweatshirt, because he had come straight from home. 2 security guards stood at the door, and Arthur was sitting at the head of the table, still holding Bella, who was sleeping soundly in his arms, completely oblivious to everything happening. Amanda sat in a chair next to Arthur in a state of shock. She didn't fully understand what was happening, but she knew it was something big, something that would change everything. Robert was on the other side of the table, still standing with his arms crossed and a defensive expression on his face. Raphael, Arthur began, his voice back to its cold, professional tone. I need you to explain the legal options we have regarding a situation of unacknowledged paternity. Raphael opened his briefcase and took out a notepad, starting to write as he spoke. Well, Mr. Blackwood, in cases where there's a suspicion of paternity and the alleged father refuses to acknowledge the child, the mother can file a paternity investigation lawsuit. The judge can order a compulsory DNA test. If paternity is proven, the father is obligated to— We already have proof of paternity, Arthur interrupted him. The birthmark is sufficient biological evidence. It's a documented genetic trait of the Blackwood family for 3 generations. Our family doctor has records of it. Interesting, Raphael noted quickly. That would greatly facilitate the process, but it would still be ideal to do the DNA test to have irrefutable proof in court. Do whatever is necessary. I want Amanda to file the suit tomorrow, and I want the best family lawyer this company can afford representing her. Wait. Amanda finally found her voice. Mr. Blackwood, I don't have money to pay for a lawyer. You won't pay a thing. Blackwood Holdings will cover all legal costs. Consider it compensation for my brother's abominable behavior. This is ridiculous, Robert exploded. You can't use company money to fund her personal vendetta against me. Arthur looked at him with such contempt that Robert almost recoiled. Vendetta, you think this is a vendetta, Robert? This is justice, something you clearly don't understand. And as for the company's money, I am the president and majority shareholder. I can use the resources as I see fit. Dad wouldn't have liked this. Dad isn't here anymore. And you know what he really wouldn't have liked? Knowing that his granddaughter, a child with Blackwood blood, is being raised in poverty because his son is a coward. That hit Robert like a punch to the gut because it was true. Their father had been obsessed with the idea of family legacy honor. If he were alive and found out he had a granddaughter, he never knew because Robert had denied her. Raphael, Arthur continued, in addition to the paternity suit, I also want you to prepare an action for termination of parental rights. The entire room fell silent. Sir, Raphael hesitated. Termination of parental rights is an extreme measure. It's usually only applied in cases of abuse, severe neglect, or material abandonment. And what do you call denying the existence of your own daughter, refusing to pay child support, letting a child go without necessities when you have the full means to help? If that isn't material abandonment, I don't know what is. Raphael nodded slowly. You have a point, sir. I'll prepare the documents. You can't take my daughter from me, Robert shouted, completely losing his composure. Oh, now she's your daughter. Arthur stood up, still holding Bella carefully. Now that you're about to lose her, now you care. Where was this fatherly love when Amanda came to you pregnant? Where was it when she sent you a picture of newborn Bella? Where was it when she begged you just to meet your daughter? Robert had no answer. I'll tell you where you were, Arthur continued relentlessly. You were spending money in nightclubs. You were dating other women. You were stealing from the company to finance your pathetic lifestyle, while your daughter was wearing diapers bought with the money Amanda earned cleaning toilets. Each word was calculated to hurt, and it was working. Robert was pale, sweating, not knowing where to look. And you know what's most ironic? Arthur gave a bitter laugh. I've spent the last 5 years wishing for nothing more than to have my daughter back, praying every night to wake up and find it was all a nightmare. And you who have a living, healthy daughter, you just threw her away as if she was worthless. Arthur's voice broke slightly on the last sentence, but he quickly composed himself. Arthur, Robert tried again, and for the first time there was real desperation in his voice. I made mistakes. I know that, but you can't take my daughter from me. I can change. I can be better. No, Arthur said simply. You had 1.5 years to change to be better, and you chose to do nothing. Now it's too late. He turned to the security guards at the door. Escort Mr. Robert out of the building. He no longer works here, and confiscate his ID badge and keys. You can't fire me, Robert yelled, finally panicking for real. I can, and I just did. You stole from the company, you abandoned a daughter, and you have completely lost my trust. You're fired for just cause. Clean out your desk tomorrow under security supervision. The security guards approached Robert. He looked at Amanda one last time, searching for some sign of clemency, of compassion. But she just looked at him with tired, disappointed eyes. "Amanda, Go away, Robert," she said. And there was no anger in her voice, just exhaustion. "Just go away." Robert was escorted out, still protesting, still trying to negotiate, but no one was listening anymore. The door closed behind him, and a heavy silence fell over the room. Arthur sat back down, Bella still sleeping peacefully in his arms. She had slept through the entire argument, protected from the chaos by the firm arms that held her. Amanda began to cry silently at first, then in deep sobs that she tried to muffle with her hands. It was as if everything she had held in for a year and a half finally exploded all at once. Arthur waited patiently until she calmed down. When she finally looked at him, her eyes red and swollen, he spoke with surprising gentleness. "You don't have to work as a cleaner anymore. I'll arrange a better position for you in the company with a decent salary and a career path if you want it." "Mr. Blackwood, I don't know what to say. But there's one condition." Amanda felt her stomach tighten. Of course there was a condition. Nothing in this world was free. "What is it?" And that's when Arthur said something that would change their lives forever. "You and Bella are going to live in my mansion." The words fell into the room like a bomb. Amanda blinked several times, thinking she had misheard. "I'm sorry. What? You and your daughter are moving into my house tonight." "Mr. Blackwood, I can't accept that. It's too much." "I'm not asking for your opinion. I'm informing you of my decision," Arthur said, and there was a firmness in his voice that left no room for argument. "Robert is impulsive and vengeful. Now that he knows Bella is his, I don't know what he might do. He could try to take the child from you. He could try to intimidate you. He could do something worse. I'm not going to risk it." "But I can't just go live in a stranger's house," Amanda protested, her voice rising slightly with anxiety. "I'm not a stranger. I'm your daughter's uncle, and she is a Blackwood, whether you like it or not. No Blackwood will live at risk of eviction or go hungry while I have the resources to prevent it." Amanda looked at Bella sleeping in Arthur's arms. The baby looked so small, so fragile, so precious. And for the first time in a year and a half, Amanda was not alone. There was someone there. Someone powerful and rich, offering protection, offering security. But there was something wrong with it all. She didn't know this man didn't know his real intentions. What if he wanted to keep Bella? What if he thought Amanda wasn't good enough to raise a Blackwood? "I know what you're thinking," Arthur said, as if he could read her mind. "You're thinking I'm going to try to take your daughter from you, that I'll use my money and power to get custody of her." Amanda didn't deny it. It was exactly what she was thinking. "I'm not going to do that," he continued, looking into her eyes with raw honesty. "Bella needs her mother. Every child does. I learned that the hard way when I lost my Clara. She was 4 when she was diagnosed with leukemia. She fought for 8 months, and in the end it wasn't me she wanted to be with. It was her mother. It was always her mother." His voice broke slightly on the last phrase. Amanda saw the pain cross his face like a shadow. "I'm so sorry for your loss," she said sincerely. Arthur nodded, accepting the condolence, but clearly not wanting to talk more about it. "The point is, I know the importance of a mother, and I see how much you love this child, how much you fought for her. You didn't risk your job when you could have left her home alone. You risked everything to be near her. That's true love. So no, I'm not going to try to take her from you, but I am going to protect you both whether you want me to or not. And if I refuse, then I will hire security guards to watch your building 24/7. I will pay your rent a year in advance. I will transfer money to your account every month to ensure Bella has everything she needs. And I will keep doing it until you either accept my help in a dignified way or until Robert gives up, whichever comes first." Amanda realized there was no winning this argument. Arthur Blackwood was a man used to giving orders and being obeyed. And as scary as that was, there was a sincerity in his words she couldn't ignore. "For how long?" she asked, resigned. "Until we resolve the legal situation with Robert, until you're financially stable enough to support yourself, or until you decide you want your own home. Whichever comes first." "And what will I do at your house clean, cook?" "You will be your daughter's mother, that's it. We'll figure out the rest." Amanda looked again at Bella. The baby had a little hand clutched to Arthur's suit, even in her sleep, as if she already knew he was safe, as if she already trusted him. "Okay," she finally agreed, "but on one condition of my own." Arthur looked at her, surprised. He wasn't used to people negotiating with him. "Which is, if I feel this isn't working, if I feel Bella isn't happy there, or if I don't feel comfortable, I'm leaving, and you won't try to stop me." Arthur thought for a moment, then nodded. "Fair enough, but I assure you I will do everything to make you and Bella feel at home." Raphael cleared his throat, remembering he was still there. "Mr. Blackwood, if I may, I would suggest documenting this arrangement. A contract that makes it clear Amanda retains full custody of the child and is residing temporarily on your property for security reasons. This would avoid any misinterpretation of the situation." "Good idea. Prepare the document and send it to me for review tomorrow." "Yes, sir." Arthur looked at the clock. It was well past midnight. "Let's go. You need to get your things." "I live in the Bronx. It's far," Amanda said, already imagining the embarrassment of Arthur seeing the tiny apartment where she lived. "It doesn't matter. My driver will take us." An hour later, they were in front of the small building where Amanda lived. It was on a narrow street with cracked pavement and irregularly flickering streetlights. Arthur got out of the car, still holding a sleeping Bella, and looked around without any apparent judgment. But Amanda knew he was seeing it, seeing how poor she was, how much she had struggled, how different this world was from his. "I'll just get our things quickly," she said, her cheeks burning with shame. But when she went inside and started gathering the old clothes and broken toys of Bella's, she heard Arthur's voice behind her. "Leave it. I'll buy everything new for you both tomorrow." "You don't have to, these clothes still fit." "Amanda," he interrupted gently, "please let me do this. Let me give my niece what she should have had from the beginning." And it was the way he said it, "my niece," that finally broke Amanda's last resistance. He wasn't doing this out of pity. He wasn't doing it out of obligation. There was something real there, something she hadn't expected to find in that cold, feared man. They left the small apartment carrying only Bella's teddy bear and a few photos. The rest would be left behind, along with a year and a half of struggle and hardship. On the way to the mansion, Bella woke up briefly. She looked around confused, and her eyes found Amanda's. "Mommy!" Her voice was sleepy and whiny. "I'm here, my love." But then Bella saw Arthur, and instead of being scared or crying as she did with most strangers, she simply rested her head on his shoulder again and went back to sleep. Amanda saw the look that crossed Arthur's face at that moment. It was pain and joy mixed. It was longing and hope at the same time. It was the look of a man who had lost everything and suddenly discovered that maybe there was still something to live for. And she understood then that as insane as this arrangement was, maybe Arthur needed her and Bella just as much as they needed him. Maybe they were all saving each other. The first few days in the mansion were strange. Amanda didn't know how to act in that enormous place full of expensive furniture and polite staff. She was afraid to touch anything, afraid to break something, afraid she didn't belong. But Bella had no such fears. To her, this was just a new house to explore. And explore she did, crawling into every corner, leaving her toys scattered through the immaculate rooms, filling that silent house with her laughter and cries. Arthur watched everything from a distance at first. He watched Amanda prepare bottles in the huge kitchen. He watched Bella play in the living room. He watched, but he didn't participate, as if he were afraid of getting too close and having it all disappear like a dream. It was Bella who broke that barrier. On the third day, she simply decided that Arthur was part of her life now. And when Bella decided something, there was no going back. It was late at night. Arthur was in his office dealing with overdue paperwork when he heard little footsteps in the hallway. He looked up just in time to see Bella entering through the open door, dragging her teddy bear. "Bella, where's your mother?" The baby didn't answer, just kept walking until she reached the leather armchair where Arthur was sitting. She looked at him, then at the armchair, calculating. Then, with the determination only a small child has, she began to climb. She grabbed the arm of the chair with her little hands, pulled, propped her knee up, pulled some more. "Wait, you're going to fall!" Arthur dropped the papers and held Bella by the waist, helping her up. Bella settled into his lap as if it were the most natural place in the world. She rested her head on his chest, hugged her teddy bear, and closed her eyes. Arthur remained completely still, almost holding his breath, afraid that any movement would break the moment. A child was sleeping in his lap, a child who trusted him enough to fall asleep in his arms. After 5 years of loneliness and pain, there was life in his lap again. "Bella." Amanda appeared at the office door, clearly worried. "I'm sorry, Mr. Blackwood. I just went to the bathroom for 2 minutes, and when I came back, she was gone." "It's okay," Arthur whispered, not wanting to wake the baby. "She came in here." Amanda went to get Bella, but Arthur stopped her with a gesture. "Let her stay, please." There was something so vulnerable in that request that Amanda didn't have the heart to refuse. She just nodded and left, gently closing the door. Arthur looked at the sleeping child in his lap, at the dark curls spread across his chest, at the chubby cheeks, at the little hands that held the teddy bear tightly even in sleep. And for the first time in 5 years, Arthur Blackwood cried. He cried for the daughter he had lost. He cried for the empty years he had lived. He cried for the brother who had disappointed him so deeply, and he cried with gratitude for this child who had appeared out of nowhere and made him feel that there was still some goodness in the world. The days turned into weeks. The house, once silent and cold, began to have life. Bella scattered toys in every corner. Amanda cooked simple recipes in the gigantic kitchen, filling the house with homemade smells. And Arthur slowly began to smile again. He would come home from work, and Bella would run to greet him, her little arms outstretched, yelling, "Unca Arti," a baby version of Uncle Arthur that melted his heart. He had family dinners for the first time in years. He heard laughter in the hallways. He had a reason to come home. But Robert didn't give up easily. He showed up at the mansion 3 times trying to see Bella. 3 times he was stopped by security. He hired lawyers. He filed for custody. He tried to use his remaining influence to make Arthur look inappropriate, but it didn't work. The DNA test proved Robert's paternity, but it also proved the abandonment. Amanda won full custody. Robert was ordered to pay retroactive child support, and after months of legal battles, he simply gave up and disappeared, returning to his life of parties and irresponsibility. Arthur was relieved. Bella was safe. Amanda was happy. Everything was finally falling into place. But there was something Arthur hadn't told Amanda, something that was growing in his chest, day by day. It wasn't just love for Bella, it was love for her. For the way she cared for her daughter with so much affection, for the strength she had shown in a 1.5 years alone, for the kindness in her eyes, for the laughter that now filled his house. He had fallen in love with the cleaner, who had crashed his meeting with a hidden baby, and he didn't know what to do about it. It was on a winter night, 6 months after that first chaotic night, that Arthur finally gathered his courage. They were in the living room. Bella was asleep on the sofa between them after spending the afternoon playing in the garden. The fireplace was lit. There was a peace in that scene that Arthur never imagined he would have again. "Amanda," he began, his voice hesitant in a way she had never heard before. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Are you happy here?" Amanda looked around at the comfortable house, at her daughter sleeping peacefully, at the man who had become so much more than a protector, who had become a friend, who had become family. "Yes," she answered honestly. "I'm very happy here." Arthur took a deep breath, preparing for the biggest risk of his life. "Then, would you consider staying forever?" Amanda looked at him, confused. "What do you mean, marry me?" The silence that fell was absolute. Amanda blinked several times, thinking she had misheard. "What? I know it's crazy. I know you have every right to say no, but these last 6 months have been the best of my life since Clara was gone. You and Bella brought light to this house. You brought life, and I've fallen in love with you. For the way you are with Bella, for your strength, your kindness, your laugh, for everything." Amanda was speechless. Her heart was beating so fast she thought it might explode. "Arthur, I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything right now. Just think about it. I'm not asking out of obligation. I'm not asking for Bella's sake. I'm asking because I truly love you, and I want to build a real family with you if you'll let me." Amanda looked at Bella sleeping. Then she looked at Arthur, at this man who had saved her and her daughter when she needed it most, who had transformed from a cold stranger into a kind and loving man, who played with Bella on the floor, who came home early from work, just so he wouldn't miss dinner, who read stories to his niece before bed, who looked at Amanda as if she were the most precious thing in the world. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes. Yes, I'll marry you." Arthur pulled her into a hug so tight, Amanda could barely breathe. He was laughing and crying at the same time, so happy he couldn't contain it. Bella woke up with the noise, looked at the two of them hugging, and simply smiled. Then she joined the hug, her small arms trying to reach both of them at once. And there, in that fire-lit room, a family was born. Not by blood ties, not by convention, but by the true love that had grown amidst chaos and hardship. Amanda had started that journey as a desperate cleaner, hiding her daughter at work, and ended it as the wife of the most feared CEO in New York City, and the mother of a Blackwood who would be loved and protected for her entire life. Bella had started as a baby rejected and denied by her own father, and ended up with a complete family that adored her unconditionally. And Arthur had started as an empty man trapped in his grief and loneliness, and ended up learning that love can come from the most unexpected places at the most impossible times with the most unlikely people. They were married 3 months later in a small, intimate ceremony. Bella was the flower girl, wearing a white dress and enthusiastically scattering petals everywhere. Maria was there, crying with joy to see the young woman she had helped on that chaotic night, now so happy. And even some of the directors who had witnessed that fateful meeting were present, smiling, as they saw how such a strange situation had turned into something so beautiful. Robert was not invited, and no one missed him. Years later, when Bella was a 5-year-old child full of energy and questions, she asked her mother how Amanda and Arthur had met. Amanda looked at her husband, who smiled back at her with that smile that was now a constant on his face. And she replied, "It's a funny story, sweetie. It all started on a rainy night when Mommy made the riskiest and most right choice of her life." And Bella, curious as always, asked to hear the whole story. So Amanda told her about the night she brought a hidden baby to work, about the emergency meeting, about the cold man who turned into a loving father, about how the most improbable things are sometimes the most right. And Bella listened with wide eyes, not knowing that she was the hero of that story, that it was her laugh that melted the ice, that it was her presence that saved 3 people at once. Because in the end, it wasn't Arthur who saved Amanda and Bella. And it wasn't Amanda who saved Arthur. It was all of them saving each other one day at a time until salvation turned into love. And love turned into a family that nothing and no one could ever destroy. And if you ask any of them what the best day of their lives was, they will all say the same thing that rainy night on Park Avenue when a curious baby crawled under a mahogany table and changed everything forever. So what did you think of the story? Leave your opinion in the comments. We love to know what you think. Don't forget to leave a like on the video to support us and subscribe to the channel. See you next time.